powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, VON Radio, from the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
From the VON Newsline, this is the VON Major Newscast.
Good evening. I am Tashan Tyson, in with your VON Major News package for today, Friday, 15th March 2019. In our lead stories, nationally, Mr. Elmer Liebert, patron for Agricultural Open Day 25, and Green Tech Startup Bootcamp to be held here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Regionally, Barbados government to confiscate money from criminals and use it to fight crime locally and regionally. Internationally, 49 dead in New Zealand mosque attacks. And in sports, final decision on 48-team 2022 FIFA World Cup set for June. We'll have the details of these and other stories after this message.
Another look.
Different from how you've seen it before.
Another look.
Takes an in-depth look into business, politics, science, technology, religion, and more.
Another look.
Featuring documentaries from the BBC, regional features, and local ones too.
Another look.
Every Monday at 3 p.m. on the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse.
Wow.
Welcome back, and now the national news in detail.
Our patron for this year is Mr. Elmo Liebert. He's the very first permanent secretary in agriculture here on Nevis. So after 25 years, and indeed it is under him that Agriculture Open Day started too. So we're happy to have him as our patron for this year.
Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture here on Nevis, Mr. Huey Sargent. This year's Open Day, the 25th edition, will also be staged at a new venue, the El Comido T. Willett Park, on March 28th and 29th. Meantime, Director of Agriculture, Mr. Randy Elliott, has disclosed that the department has introduced a new initiative, a package, which will consist of a passport for persons attending the two-day event.
Our patron for this year is Mr. Elmo Liebert. He's the very first permanent secretary.
The passport, basically, you will have some chips attached to the passport. It gets you free entry into the grounds. It gets you to a number of different booths where you're able to get samples or get fruits, vegetables, or food, or even fry fish from a number of the booths within the grounds. So again, the passport will be available from next week also. The price for the passport will be announced also.
Director of Agriculture, Mr. Randy Elliott. Clean tech entrepreneurs are being encouraged to attend the 3-day Caribbean Green Tech Startup Bootcamp from March 19th to 21st at the St. Kitts and Nevis Customs and Excise Department to access basic business education, mentorship and finance in order to further develop their green sector businesses. Caribbean Green Tech Startup Bootcamp is an avenue to assist entrepreneurs to have clean tech solutions that can assist in the mitigation or adaptation to climate change. It was started in 2015, and there have been 13 bootcamps so far across the Caribbean. Program Director of the Caribbean Climate Innovation Center, CCIC, and Director of the Bootcamp, Tamika Lee, said the clean tech entrepreneurs face challenges in the green sector in terms of assistance and support in building out their businesses. Before the bootcamp, there will be an idea generation session on March 18th at 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. at the Customs and Excise Department, where green sector experts will have a panel discussion on some of the challenges that affect the sector as it relates to climate change in the Caribbean. At the end of the boot camp, entrepreneurs should be able to have business models which can even be taken to the commercialization stage. The Caribbean Green Tech Startup Bootcamp is free to sign up. Tools, t-shirts, certificates of participation at the end of the bootcamp, and access to mentors will be given free. At the end, there will be a pitch competition. The winner will receive $1,000, second place $500, and third place $250. Members of the volunteer corps, the St. Kitts Sustainable Destination Council SDC in particular, have been working with several entities that are seeking to make a positive difference in St. Kitts and Nevis and in the lives of citizens. Youth Officer Sharon Cannonier said that the Department of Youth Empowerment is actively seeking additional requests for volunteers as there are a number of gaps in society that need to be addressed. One suggested area was in education, particularly during classroom sessions. Ms. Cannonier said that the assistance can be in any subject as more than 70% of the volunteer corps attend tertiary institutions. She added that assistance has also been offered to the children's home. Volunteers have assisted with environmental campaigns in keeping with the mission of the SDC. That mission is to ensure that development in our destination preserves and benefits our environment, culture, heritage, and community. Other organizations include ADE's Place, a day center that provides training for differently abled youth, the Explorers Groups, and the St. George's Anglican Scout Group. The Nevis Department of Agriculture continues its pre-celebratory activities in the lead-up to Agriculture Open Day 25. The department, in collaboration with East Caribbean Feeds, ECGC, will be hosting an annual husbandry and production seminar on Wednesday 20th and Thursday 21st March. The event, slated to be held at the Red Cross Building in Charlestown, will begin at 6:45 nightly. Here is Director at the Department of Agriculture, Mr. Randy Elliott.
For our 25th Agricultural Open Day, ECGC would have decided that as part of their annual sponsorship to do this training in Nevis with us. Next week, we're hoping that the first night would be pig and poultry farmers, and the second night will be small ruminants. So we're just hoping that our farmers come out and learn as much as they can learn for these 2 evenings.
He also alluded to the fact that this collaboration will be beneficial to the farmers on the island.
The small ruminants or the livestock sector in general, it is a sector that the department is working tirelessly to ensure that we're able to get our production up to the marks that we want it to get, and ECGC has gladly come on board to partner with us this year.
Mr. Randy Elliott. Prime Minister and Minister of National Security, Dr. Denable Timothy Harris, reiterated his call on March 12th for all residents to support the work of local law enforcement. This comes on the heels of a report from the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force, RSCNPF, that indicated a 48% reduction in recorded crime for the first 2 months of 2019. He was quoted as saying, "If you see something, say something." The PM, in speaking to the young men from Keon, said, "We are making an appeal, put down your guns." He also commended community activists who are working to make a difference in the lives of the men and women in the area. And finally, Parliamentary Representative for Constituency 8, the Honorable Eugene Hamilton, while speaking at the government's community consultation earlier this week at the Keon Community Center, said that there are significant allocations for community projects in Constituency 8 in the 2019 budget. He said the budget for 2019 has captured a project at the St. Mary's Park. The government plans to spend $3.1 million EC over time, beginning this year, to put in the bleachers. According to the Human Settlement Minister, lots are being prepared for sale through the National Housing Corporation, NHC, in the Holland Gut, Cayon, so that persons will have an opportunity to acquire land in that area to build houses. Additionally, a studio for young persons to have a creative space to produce music will be built. In St. Peter's, that community will see the construction of a brand new health center and will soon be on the way, Minister Hamilton said. That's the national news segment. You can visit our website at www.vonradio.com or check us out on Facebook at Von Radio or our Von Radio YouTube channel for these and other stories. News from across the region is next.
Ladies and gentlemen, this here's another one for the steppers.
Swipe to win big in 2019. That's right, the Bank of Nevis Limited is once again giving you, our valued customers, a chance to win big. Just swipe or use your Bond Visa credit card for US $100 for a chance to win a cruise for two, an iPhone XS, or a grocery dash at Best Buy supermarket.
Say what?
Sign up for a Bond Visa credit card and automatically be entered for a chance to win. This offer ends August 31st, 2019. So tell your friends and family, just swipe to win big with the Bank of Nevis. The Bank of Nevis Limited, improving the quality of life. Like us on Facebook or follow us on Instagram.
Welcome back. Another regional news in detail. The Barbados government will be introducing legislation to allow it to confiscate the property of criminals who commit a wide range of offences, not just those convicted of drug or terrorism-related crimes. And a portion of the monies confiscated from such proceedings will go towards a regional account to help the Caribbeans fight against crime, while the rest would help fund law enforcement in Barbados. The disclosure was made yesterday in Parliament by Attorney General Dale Marshall, who said the new proceeds and instrumentalities of Crime Bill 2019 will also make way for the prosecution of offenders who got rich off ill-gotten gains within the last 20 years. He explained that the legislation is intended to strike at essentially those assets that are in the possession of the criminal element of the country, where those assets are either themselves the proceeds of crime or are intended or have been used in the commission of crime or in unlawful conduct. A Proceeds of Crime Act, enacted in 1990 and amended in 1998 and 2002, remains in effect. But Marshall said it has deficiencies that the new legislation will address. The Attorney General said that beyond drug and terrorism-related activities, the proceeds and instrumentalities of Crime Bill 2019 will cover proceeds from corruption, money laundering, racketeering, and other crimes. The National Airline of Trinidad and Tobago, Caribbean Airlines CAL, says it will not acquire the Boeing 737 MAX 8 aircraft if it is found that it does not meet required safety standards. The airline, in a statement on Thursday, said it does not fly the Boeing 737 MAX 8 aircraft and will not, and in fact cannot, introduce any aircraft into its fleet that does not meet the most stringent international and domestic regulations. The airline said if the Boeing 737 MAX 8 aircraft fails to meet any of the very stringent requirements, it will not be added to the fleet. According to CAL, its international aviation consultants attorneys, and management are closely monitoring the situation and will take all required steps to continue to safeguard the airline, its customers, and staff. The statement follows mounting concern that the safety of the Boeing 737 MAX 8 aircraft in the aftermath of Sunday's Ethiopian Airways crash, in which all 157 passengers were killed. Out of St. Lucia. A St. Lucian who founded an indigenous biotechnology company is one of the 4 recipients of this year's 2019 Commonwealth Youth Awards, given in recognition of efforts to end hunger, sexual violence, sanitation issues, and climate change. Johanan Dujan won the award alongside young people from India, Nigeria, and the Solomon Islands. A ceremony was held today at the Commonwealth's headquarters in London, where winners shared a £12,000 grant for their innovative projects. Dujan's company, Algas Organics, develops commercial agricultural products from sargassum, seaweed, which has inundated many of the region's shorelines. Those products unblock fish landing sites and reduce the harmful effect of seaweed's hydrogen sulfide emissions on local communities. And finally, out of Santo Domingo. A drought that affects 95% of the Dominican population and which is likely to spread during March and April has prompted the Dominican government to expand support to the livestock sector. During a National Palace press conference, the representatives of the Water Resource Coordination Board also called on the population to curtail water consumption. They said that food rations will be increased to vulnerable populations. The water used for human consumption is now guaranteed, but it must be rationed since the most critical months of the drought are expected. They also called on farmers not to plant new crops. According to the board, the country has only 570 million cubic meters of water in its reservoirs. National Weather Office, ONAMET Director Gloria Ceballos, said in recent months the drought has worsened as rainfall is still below normal, especially over the northwest and southwest. That's it for regional stories. Stay with us for news from around the world. Welcome back, and now the international news in detail. 49 people have been killed and at least 20 wounded in shootings at 2 mosques in Christchurch, New Zealand. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern described the incident as a terrorist attack and one of New Zealand's darkest days. A man in his late 20s was charged with murder and will appear in court on Saturday morning, police confirmed. More in this report.
Brenton Tarrant has been identified as the 28-year-old who streamed the attack live on the internet. He was born in Australia but was not on any security watch list. In a rambling 70-page document posted online, he describes himself as a racist, fascist and nationalist. He says he wanted to target what he calls invaders in order to incite violence and create an atmosphere of fear. He says he was not a member of any organisation, but does say he donated to and interacted with many nationalist groups, saying he took inspiration from Anders Breivik, who killed more than 70 people in a gun and bomb attack in Norway in 2011.
Israel has carried out dozens of airstrikes on Palestinian militant sites in Gaza in retaliation for the firing of 2 rockets towards Tel Aviv. The rocket fire, which did not cause damage or injuries, was the first to target the Israeli city since 2014. 4 people were wounded in the strikes on Gaza. Israel's military said the headquarters of the militant group Hamas was among the targets. Hamas, which dominates Gaza, insisted it was not behind the rocket fire. Israeli media are citing an Israeli defense official as saying that the rockets may have been launched by mistake while maintenance work was being carried out. Air raid sirens sounded across Tel Aviv metropolitan area on Thursday night for the first time since a 2014 war between Israel and militants in Gaza. An explosion was heard in the city center. At first, it was believed to have been from a rocket being shot down, but the Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, said no rockets were intercepted and that it assumed they had landed in open areas. The flare-up comes just over 3 weeks before Israel holds a general election and 2 months before Tel Aviv is due to host the Eurovision Song Contest. And finally, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un may break off denuclearization talks with the U.S. and resume missile and nuclear testing, a senior official says. Vice Foreign Minister Sheh Sung-hee told foreign diplomats the U.S. threw away a golden opportunity at a recent summit between President Trump and Mr. Kim. North Korea had offered to dismantle its Yongbyon nuclear complex, but talks collapsed after Mr. Trump refused to lift sanctions unless North Korea destroyed all its nuclear sites. That brings us to the end of our news segments. The latest in sports is next.
Calling all farmers. The place to shop in the month of March is the TDC Home and Building Depot. Get a 20% off all agro products. Then on Saturday, March 30, visit the farmers market to purchase your fresh produce direct from the farm to your table from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. in both locations. TDC Home and Building Depots, celebrating farmers, supporting communities. Terms and conditions apply. See stores for details.
Welcome back. Another sports in detail. FIFA chiefs will decide on Friday whether to back an expansion of the 2022 World Cup to 48 teams, but a final decision will only be taken at a meeting in Paris in June. The FIFA Council meeting in Miami on Friday will give its verdict on an internal feasibility study which supported increasing the number of teams at the 2022 tournament in Qatar from 32 to 48. However, a final vote on increasing the number of teams at the football showpiece would only be taken at a full Congress meeting of football's global governing body in June. And any declaration of support by FIFA's Council on Friday would acknowledge that expansion in 2022 can only take place if one or more countries on Qatar's borders are able to host games. FIFA's feasibility study into an expanded World Cup in 2022 said Bahrain, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Oman, and the United Arab Emirates were potential options to host games in 3 years' time. But Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE would only be candidates if their governments ended a diplomatic blockade of Qatar launched in 2017, the study said. A final decision on whether to expand the 2022 World Cup will be taken in Paris on June 6th after FIFA and Qatar jointly submit the names of potential co-host nations to the governing body's Congress. Aged 16, Athin Moore is already an American record holder. At last month's American Indoor Championships, she clocked 1 minute 23.57 seconds to win the women's 600 meters. The event might not be in the Olympics or World Championships, and so it's staged really, but Moore's time is an American indoor record and the second fastest indoor time in history. It has been said her time equates to doing an 800 meters in 1 minute 57 seconds, potentially a championship medal winning time. Minister of Sport Olivia Grange has revealed that plans are afoot for Jamaica to play host to a new international friendly football tournament. Grange, who made the revelation during the official opening of the new AstroTurf and facility at the UWI-JFF Captain Horace Burrell Center of Excellence on Wednesday, pointed out that her ministry is currently taking steps to finalize the execution of the Caribbean African Cup. According to the minister, whose portfolio also includes cultural responsibilities, the initiative is a part of the Jamaican government's plan to strengthen ties with the African community, and if all goes efficiently, then the tournament could be launched in the coming months. She said the concept of the Caribbean African Cup came about through discussions with the African Union's ambassador to the United States, as well as the Minister of Finance for Accompong. And finally, in NFL football, Cleveland Browns' Kareem Hunt has been suspended by the NFL for the first 8 games of the 2019 season after the release of a video from February 2018 that appeared to show him attacking a woman. The running back, 23, was sacked by the Kansas City Chiefs in December. 2 months later, he was signed by the Browns, but remained banned until an NFL investigation was complete. The NFL said the suspension was in connection with 2 incidents. No charges have been filed by police. Hunt has apologized again and said he respects the league's decision on discipline. That's it for sports. The General Weather Report is next. Welcome back, and now the local weather forecast for St. Kitts and Nevis. Weather tonight will be mostly fair. Weather tomorrow will be mostly sunny with a 10% or slight chance of showers. Winds are east to northeast at 15 to 26 kilometers per hour or 8 to 14 knots. Seas are 1.2 to 1.5 meters or 4 to 5 feet. Sunrise tomorrow will be at 6:19 a.m. And that's her wrap-up the major news package for today, Friday, 15th March 2019. Before we go, let's take a look at the headlines once again. Nationally, Mr. Elmo Liebert, patron for Agricultural Open Day 25, and Green Tech Startup Bootcamp to be held here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Regionally, Barbados government to confiscate money from criminals and use it to fight crime locally and regionally. Internationally, 49 dead in New Zealand mosque attacks. And in sports, final decision on 48-team 2022 FIFA World Cup set for June. On behalf of the rest of the news team, I am Tashon Tyson, wishing you a safe and an enjoyable weekend.
VON vibrates. The whole Caribbean